this was my franchise.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ritual Chamber. I am Josh, this is Jeff. We are the Two Guys From Knowhere, and today we are going to be discussing Evil Dead Rise.
Yes, the sixth installment of the Evil Dead franchise, if you count Ash vs. the Evil Dead, which I do, so great. So, after learning of an unplanned pregnancy, Beth pays an overdue visit to her sister Ellie and her struggling family. The reunion is cut short when an earthquake opens a hole in the parking garage of their derelict LA apartment building, and the family unwittingly unearth the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, or the Book of the Dead, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival, and the evil spirits contained are unleashed.
All right. Derelict, really? Do you really think it's not derelict?
Well, it's condemned. It's literally condemned. They say it's condemned.
But I mean, like, how much do you think an apartment like that goes for in LA?
Oh, still $4,000.
So, and let's also add in the fact that she's a tattoo artist.
You can't afford to live there, but it's still condemned and it's derelict.
Derelict at $4,000.
Hey, the housing market in California.
Yeah, I know, for real though, really.
So this is an interesting one because this is like this movie has actually been in development hell since 2013.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
I actually wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so initially the 2013 remake of Evil Dead was sort of not even a remake. It's sort of a reboot.
Yes,
in a lot of ways.
It
kind of is a different story. Mm-hmm. It sure takes place in cabins, but so many movies take place in cabin, horror movies especially.
Yeah.
It's not really a remake. It's just kind of another movie called Evil Dead that just follows the same type of thing. But so after that, Sam Raimi and Fede Alvarez, I can't pronounce his first name, but I pronounce his last name. They were going to make an Evil Dead 2, sort of another reboot, or what does Scream call it again?
A requel?
A requel, a sequel to that remake, and then another Army of Darkness movie.
Oh wow, they were going to do the whole
trilogy, and they were going to kind of do the whole trilogy and then tie it together with another Evil Dead movie that was going to ultimately kind of tie both timelines / franchises together.
Okay.
But that didn't happen, obviously. So that's how we got Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
Okay.
In, I want to say 2016.
You're talking about the HBO series.
Yeah, something like that. Which ended kind of abruptly and kind of unceremoniously, if you ask me.
Okay.
But now here, this might be an amalgamation of all of those ideas coming together.
Getting a little foreshadowing.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
We talk about amalgamation, huh?
And another reason they didn't do this at a certain point, Bruce Campbell did decide to retire the character of Ash, even though technically he does have a cameo in this movie.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So, initial expectations going into this, I think we were both very excited to see this.
We were very excited. I was slightly nervous, only because I kind of was worried that it was going to be too Conjuring-esque, or just super scary, kind of like jump scary, and not really have that Evil Dead feel.
Yes.
That kind of campiness of Evil Dead, the Evil Dead franchise. I mean, everybody knows the history of Evil Dead is that Evil Dead was made. It was basically a college film from Sam Raimi and the others, and Bruce Campbell and stuff. And then they made Evil Dead 2, which was basically kind of like their big budget version of Evil Dead 1.
Yes.
But they weren't able to reuse the rights because of distribution and stuff like that. So, you know.
Yeah, franchise law.
Yeah, franchise law. You know, in studios and stuff like that.
Yes.
But, so the original Evil Dead films were they had a little bit of a zaniness to them. I mean, Sam Raimi's a big Three Stooges fan, and so there was a lot of that element in there. And I was kind of worried from the trailers, because it does look fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
That wasn't gonna be present. Mm-hmm. It's dialed back from, like, say, if Sam Raimi was directing it.
100%.
But you still got the feel, and there was still a little bit of it there. Mm-hmm. Especially a lot of the comments the mom makes after she's possessed.
Yeah.
A lot of the comments that Bridge makes when she's possessed.
Yes.
And even the sort of the neighbors outside and the way they sort of are reacting to the situation, especially the guy with the shotgun.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are my concerns. But overall, Hawking was extremely pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the times I think that I'm not really a big fan of like reboots, to be honest, because I don't, and again, it's kind of difficult to dictate what this is, but I would put it in line with a kind of a reboot.
It's a sequel.
But
a C-quel.
Yes, and so
let's copyright that one right now too.
So that was my concern with this movie, because again, kind of like what you said as well, just the trailers of it just made it look more terrifying, and I didn't know if it was going to have that feel of, that the Evil Dead franchise does. But that being said, this movie fucking delivered
everything
on everything. I mean, this movie was fantastic, and scary movies for me recently really haven't been doing it. Obviously, we've reviewed Scream, we did the Halloween franchise, and those were fun, but they weren't that good. This was fun and good.
Oh, yeah.
It was both. Great. This was a really well done film. I really enjoyed this just from front to back. It picks up at a very quick pace, gets into the story really quick with what's happening.
Sort of. Because you said front to back, and that leads me to mention one confusing thing is the front bumper and the back bumper. The front and back bumper. Because there's like this, they're out in a cabin, and which is like that's what you expect from a Evil Dead movie, and maybe they were doing that as like a bit.
I think they were doing that as like a
nod or some kind of subversion thing, but it confused the hell out of me because I was like, it says 1 day earlier, and then it's like, first of all, it says 1 day earlier, and it shows the chick in the bathroom with the pregnancy test, and then she travels to LA. Like who knows where she was before that, but it's like, so then she traveled, and then it's night, but it was night where it's a whole thing. Who knows? She could have been in LA. She's just in a club.
Yeah, what I meant for the pace though, it's like it. There's not a lot of downtime in this.
No.
It picks up very quick from the start with them being outside in the cabin. Although again, like you said, the bumpers might be a little different. Weird. The pace that it gets into this, like getting into the. What this movie is going to be about. It starts from before it even shows the title.
Yeah.
And it gives you that nice little opening sequence, then gets into, obviously introduction to the characters really quick, straight into, let's get into like what this movie is going to be about. And I loved that.
And I definitely did I'm not knocking at least the front bumper, because the front bumper is fine because it's giving you kind of what Evil Dead is. You get the flyover shots of the evil spirit kind of going, the Kandarian spirit flying to try to find its victim. Then you get this really creepy voiceover of someone reading Wuthering Heights, which is interesting because it was a scene in Wuthering Heights where someone has a dream about someone knocking on a door, which then kind of mirrors what ends up happening in this movie and sort of a lot of the plot of this movie of someone begging to be let in.
Yes.
And that was really cool, and it was creepy, and that was very Evil Dead. Like, I mean, having Ted Raimi in the first one, or I was in the first one or the second one, saying things from Henrietta's corpse standpoint, zombified corpse, saying things about like who she used to be when she was alive. That was really cool, and that was very Evil Dead too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not just the zaniness, but like that kind of the way they portrayed that kind of creepiness and the way people act when they're possessed.
Yes. So I mean, for me again, this was a good movie, and I think horror movies, like I said, have been a little lackluster for me recently.
For you?
For this one,
I was worried about this one for you just because your disdain for blood.
Yeah, this one. Well, it wasn't over the top.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, no.
What movie were you watching?
No. Hang on. The blood was obviously over the top.
Yeah.
But the
visceral.
Yeah, stuff, exactly. Was not.
I don't know, man.
Completely there. Great part. So, one thing that I really loved about this was Alyssa Sutherland, who plays Ellie, did a fantastic job playing the possessed mother. In this, her acting was great. Like, just the looks, the movements, everything that she did, the delivery for the character when she was possessed was just fucking on par. It was so good. And
plus she delivers the line, "You titty sucking maggots."
yeah, I know, I love it.
I burst out laughing.
Love it.
Yes.
But you know, she was because I've only seen her in Vikings, which is a the History Channel show.
Yeah.
And
People have told me to watch, and I have not, even though I'm like I'm Norwegian and very like Vikings are my thing.
Yeah.
Although I understand it's very graphic, and can't really watch it with.
Yes.
A show I can't really watch on TV.
I actually watched it because my grandfather, who's Norwegian, told me like, "Oh, I need to watch this." So, but she plays a big role in that show. So I think seeing her in this was it's a complete 180 from what I've seen her in before. And
single mother in L.A. derelict apartment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
versus a Viking warrior.
Yeah.
She could be a shaman. I don't know.
And obviously seeing the trailers, it looked like she was going to be able to play this role very well. But in the actual movie, I was
when you actually
like, damn, I was just kudos. She did a fantastic job.
And it's funny with that, and I love this with it. Like the cast was mostly, I know you know her from something, but unknowns.
Yes.
Like you might have seen them in something, but probably not. Or more than likely, if you did, it was a very small movie that you kind of like.
Bit parts, maybe.
Kind of goes back to the old school horror days where it was always unknowns. I mean, Johnny Depp, when he did Nightmare on Elm Street, was an unknown. He was just a musician, so that some casting director saw him and wanted to cast him.
Yeah.
But Lily Sullivan playing Beth, she was killer.
Yes.
As she kind of played that punk rock, estranged sibling type vibe really, really well, and especially the vibe of that. And you know this, you come in and play with my kids every now and again.
Yeah.
That comes in and plays with the kids, but then kind of goes like, ugh.
Yeah.
How do you do this 24/7?
Yeah. Like it's, the fun uncle, the fun aunt.
Exactly.
But like, I don't really want that in my life all the time.
Yeah.
No. She
given to the biggest like plot point.
Yeah.
She's pregnant.
She did definitely have this edginess about her.
I mean, granted, so did Alyssa Sutherland playing Ellie.
Yeah,
she was
a
tattoo artist and raising 3 kids alone.
Yeah, crazy. Again, those are always the things that I look and I'm like, that's a plot hole. That doesn't actually exist in LA. But no,
she could be a really, really good tattoo artist.
But no, Lily Sullivan, she did do a great job in this movie, and I like you said, I love that they went back to something like that, kind of bringing in more people that are unknown, and giving them a chance to show their acting chops in something like this. And I personally think this movie, I hope it does well in the theaters because it deserves it.
Well, and it shows confidence from the studio to like not try to put a big name actor in there.
And
even in a cameo sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I did say Bruce Campbell does have a cameo, but it's like literally a voice cameo that realistically it's not, you would never know it's Ash, only that the director considers it to be Ash. And there's a voice on the record when Danny plays the records that says it's called the Book of the Dead for a reason. And like you just hear like one of the priests, and when you hear all the priests shouting, you hear one priest that kind of stands out, and the director just says, "I consider that to be Ash Williams."
Okay.
That's like literally that's Bruce Campbell's cameo and Ash Williams' cameo, which is it's fine. That's that's a fun little nod.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It doesn't need to be right into your face.
And so with that too, I mean. What amazes me still to this day, obviously we've done a couple movies that we've talked about and shows with
quite a few actually, 2 years
with child actors, but the child actors in this were great too. Bridget, I don't know the name of
Gabrielle Echoes, which I literally thought, I don't know, I kept thinking every time I saw the trailer I was like, is that Selena Gomez? She just kind of looked like Selena Gomez.
Okay.
But no, Gabrielle Echoes, she was great. Morgan Davies as Danny, again, too. I looked them up. They've like done very little stuff. Morgan Davies played Danny. He was an Australian actor. He hasn't done very much, but he was giving me strong River Phoenix vibes, and I loved River Phoenix as a kid. And he kind of looks like him in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I loved River Phoenix as a kid. In fact, I actually cried when he died.
Really?
True story. I was 11 years old, and like he's also the star in my favorite movie of all time,
which is Stand By Me.
Of course.
Okay. And then the last one that we have is Neil Fisher. Is that correct as Cassie?
Nell Fisher.
Nell Fisher.
Who was the standout performance.
Yes, she was great in this. Absolutely.
Stephanie.
Stephanie, I loved that. Yeah, Stephanie was really good.
It's literally a broomstick cut in half with
a doll head that's severed from
another doll.
From a doll.
They're a weird family. Their mom's a tattoo artist. They're a weird family.
Yeah. No, but she was really good in this, and I think you have an interesting note in regards to her being able to actually play this character in this movie.
Well, yeah, the directors let her play with the blood and vomit, like the fake blood and vomit, to like get her more comfortable with it, because she is probably like 7.
Yeah,
she's really very young.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But to get her comfortable with it, because she's covered in blood throughout most of the movie.
I mean, yeah, this movie.
It's like funny. I had an interesting conversation with someone about having kids play horrifying scenes in movies or shows. I think specifically we were talking about Stranger Things, and that person said something along the lines of, I watched that show and I'll feel bad about the kids having to go through that. And I'm like, when they film a movie, especially with kids in a terrifying situation, they basically go, say your word, cut. And then like, they don't let them, it's not like they have to be running from anything. Like, they run slowly down a hall, they speed up the film. They're in never any danger. Also, like, wait, there's like 19 to 20 people around at all times watching the camera, like sitting in gorilla, or like kind of watching things go on. It's not terrifying for the kids. They're playing.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
absolutely.
It can be, sure, but for the most part, they're playing.
I mean, I think one thing with this movie, and it's good that that the directors decided to go in that direction, because like you said, I mean, there is a lot of blood.
And I was worried about you.
Yeah, well, and again, for me, the visuals of the blood is not, it's more when everything is so graphic that you can see it happening. Like the opening scene, right? When she rips the scalp off of her friend, I was like, oh gosh, I'm in for something a little bit more than I think I'm ready for at this moment right now.
And that's what we were kind of expecting.
And that was what we were expecting. And it didn't go in that direction. There was a couple scenes that were, a little tough to watch when she's eating the glass, especially. That was one. And then watching her swallow it and the glass almost pierce her skin.
That's not how that would work, but yeah.
Through her, as it's going through her throat. That there were a couple that made me uneasy, but overall, I didn't feel like they focused on that gore factor so much. So this was watchable for me.
I'll tell you what made me,
I enjoyed that.
I will tell you what made me flinch. Cheese grater.
The cheese grater was brutal. That one was brutal.
That one made me flinch.
That one was a little intense.
But since we're just talking about the different ways people bite it in this movie, the deaths in the hallway was one of the most innovative and coolest looking shots and scenes that I've seen in not a long time, but in a while, especially when it comes to horror. Because in horror, there's always that, like, you can go kind of one or two ways. You can be extra visceral and just show everything, or cutaways. And this kind of gave you a mix of both, but also with this like cool kind of fisheye lens look in a hallway. In fact, it was funny in the trailer. I was wondering what that was, because in the trailer I didn't realize that would be a bookshelf blocking a doorway.
That's right.
I thought it was literally like a doorway on top of a bookshelf, and there was maybe again a little bit of a spookier factor, and have like inside this little tiny doorway, maybe a crawl space or something.
Yes,
had become this supernatural extended world or something.
That's what I thought too.
And then realized, no, it's just the hallway, and then looking at the people.
Yeah.
But that was really, really, really cool, especially doing the eyeball fly ball again from Evil Dead 2, which is when
it spits it out.
The kid getting his arms ripped off and then thrown against the wall.
Yeah.
The other guy getting shot or eviscerated in one way or another.
Yes.
That was really, really cool. Tattoo a gun to the eyeball.
Yes.
That one was. I didn't wince.
It could have been bad,
but it could have been bad.
Yeah.
Like Dead Space.
Yes, and that was one thing that I thought, about this movie. Horror films, I think it's difficult because, like you said, there's a lot of standardization in them and in kind of rules that they follow when it comes to cinematography. And this film did a very good job kind of branching itself out of what, again, Evil Dead in the sense of we're not in a cabin anymore.
Gave us a lot of it. There's still that claustrophobia.
Yes, there's still that vibe is still there, but it's a little bit more open having it take place, obviously, in an apartment building to the point to where even the neighbors come out to try to figure out what's going on and ultimately become the victims, which I realistically kind of, as I was watching this movie, I was kind of thinking they were going to be the only victims. It kind of made it seem like the family was going to survive together. All the kids
Oh,
were
no,
going to
I literally thought this would be one of those movies where everyone dies.
See, I didn't think
I
that.
was waiting for
I
everyone
didn't
to
think
go.
that. I was thinking, okay, the neighbors show up, that's what's going to happen. But the way that they filmed this and one thing...
Or maybe Cassie lived because you couldn't kill a 6-year-old.
One thing that I always... that I liked about this movie and that I liked in another one of... my favorite of all time, like horror-ish genre films, which is Strangers, is that the house, which is usually the safe place, is not the safe place here. Of course. And I loved that they went in that direction with this, and it just worked really well because again, the peephole, that whole sequence was done very well. And again, just Alyssa Sutherland, really kudos for the acting as she keeps coming up to the peephole, trying to get in and just, her interactions through that. It was great.
No, yeah, that was great. And for a little bit, I want to talk about the Necronomicon and sort of the rules that are kind of placed in this movie. The sort of, you could deem as plot holes or maybe like kind of just like contrivances. I mean, a bank vault being under this apartment building that's going to be torn down, like a full-on bank vault with stuff that's still there.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just leave that stuff there. The government carts it off, or if this is unclaimed, it gets carted off, or destroyed, or whatever. A little bit of a sort of a convenience, but whatever. A horror movie, you need a reason to how this book got here anyway. But it's funny that when Danny plays the record, the priest states that there's 3 Necronomicons, which kind of, it might. Very recently, Bruce Campbell came out and said they're going to make more Evil Dead movies, which means they might all tie together in some way, and then maybe Bruce Campbell will come out of retirement as Ash. Maybe, hopefully. In fact, I was really, really, really hoping at the end of this movie when the chainsaw and the fucking shotgun,
I was too.
I was like, come on. Can Ash just not show up for like some reason? If you ever watch Ash vs. Evil Dead, the way that show ended, it ended kind of lackluster. It was a very big disappointment. That entire show was great. The ending was terrible.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And I was just really hoping like he would just come back, especially after his little cameo in the remake in 2013 in the post-credit scene. It was one shot of his face. But so I was kind of hoping for something, but. So a fun fact, in Army of Darkness, there is a part where Ash goes up to 3 Necronomicons. And it was always sort of like one's, 2 are tricks and one's the real one.
Yes.
But this priest in this record says there are 3. Well, each book looks different.
Yes.
So now these might actually be 3 different separate books. That, hence why maybe the Deadites from Evil Dead and Army of Darkness are a little bit more wacky, and then in Evil Dead they're a lot more dark, and in this one they're a lot more dark.
Yes, yeah.
It might explain the little bit of a difference. You could use that as a story device if you wanted to going forward. Plus, it was really funny to me with this Necronomicon how it didn't seem to be any words in it.
No, it was all pictures.
Well, during the credits when it showed it, it was like written in a certain sideways script.
Yes.
But it was very reminiscent of like the artwork from like etching artwork from, say, like the artwork in 13 Ghosts when they're showing the depiction of the Black Zodiac. Or it's a really cool graphic novel that I have called Greetings from Hellville by Thomas Ott. It's all black and white. It's kind of there's no word bubbles or anything. It's just kind of a depiction of shitty things happening in a comic book. But it's really, really cool. But the one thing was like, it was just weird that like everything that would happen, it would just flip to the page, and like that would be something that happened.
See, I liked that.
It was very Creepshow-esque.
But I did like that because it gave sense to the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Because realistically, when you're looking at it initially, the more emphasis that can be put on this is the record.
Yeah.
As being the thing that obviously...
And plus, there were real no rules to like how anyone's getting possessed.
Exactly.
I mean...
And so it kind of...
Bridges kind of get cut with a...
Well, she gets a tattoo gun.
With a tattoo gun, but she, like, you know... Danny gets stabbed in the chest.
Well, and then he gets massive amounts
He does get massive amounts of blood on him. You are correct.
But yeah...
That went out... But then Cassie and Beth go into an elevator and get
drowned
in blood.
That's true. But it's, you know, situation's a little bit different.
I guess because that blood was like, it was like the ooze from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't connected to the other two.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, fair enough.
But no, I actually like that because again, it gave us, you know, as they're looking through this book, you're seeing some of these depictions of these things that are happening and it gave sense to them, especially when you get to the end and you get the amalgam.
Yeah,
where,
the blood orgy.
Where all of them come together to form this, this monster that eventually becomes...
Amalgam was a good word.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the movie Society from 1989. It was just like there's a literally a blood orgy scene where like literally like people turn into mass of flesh because they're like having a literal orgy, but like they're stuffing their fingers into flesh and then like melding.
Okay.
It's a rough scene, but it's also a horror comedy too, so kind of reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah, and this
I was like, what the fuck is going on with this blood orgy scene?
Yeah, and it was very obviously leading up to the end of the movie, very intense to watch them kind of fight this thing in a parking garage.
One note I had about that though. One note I do have about that though. When Beth shoots the amalgam or the spider monster thing, the spider monster is holding a chainsaw to Cassie's neck right when she shoots. You just cut Cassie in half.
No,
I got shot. What? Oh.
Yeah.
Cassie dead.
And then I think. You know, again, you don't always question the why certain things are in movies,
you let it happen.
In horror movies,
especially in horror movies. You let it go.
But you know, they just for whatever reason have this
wood chipper in the
in the parking garage
as you do
of a derelict $4,000 a month apartment building in L.A.
Maybe that's what they. Because landlords are so cheap in California that maybe they were using the wood chipper to destroy it,
or they could just be renting that space to make extra money. But it did lead to a very
$2,500 parking rent.
Yeah, exactly. A very violent ending of this film that was again to me very reminiscent of Evil Dead.
Oh yeah,
just a lot of blood. Just very over the top way to like kill this thing that you need to destroy, and there
again goes my thing about like the rules of the possession is that literally Cassie's like sitting next to the wood chipper and all the blood from the amalgam getting eviscerated and just destroyed is dripping onto her head. No, not possessed. And the blood is shooting out in Beth's face.
Yeah.
But no, not possessed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
But I one thing I will say too, the last thing for that, Lily Sullivan, who plays Beth, I feel like she really channeled a very good inner Bruce Campbell.
Oh no, definitely.
For that last scene.
Her name should have been Ashley. Just throwing that out there.
No, that would have been so clever.
Just throwing that out there. I mean, even in the Evil Dead remake, it was Mia.
Yeah.
So
she just channeled.
Just would have been clever.
Just channeled that really well, and it just man, that end scene, as she's put in the thing to what we consider its demise.
Yeah.
I was just like, damn, this is a fucking good movie. Oh, yeah. This has been a lot of fun.
Again, another thing though, she uses a turned-on chainsaw to stuff it into the wood chipper. That's just gonna slice in, and then they can just pull you in with them. very akin to Jamie Lee Curtis needing to be pulled into the chipper in.
Oh yes, that's true. Yeah. What's up with wood chippers, and that's how
you know
we're
what,
gonna
man? Because that's awesome.
That's just the thing. That's
awesome.
what we're gonna use to dispose of.
It's like a zeitgeist got destroyed in Deadpool 2.
Yeah. Just evil
and Paul.
Evil spirits and bad things. Possessed amalgams and.
So before we get to our monkeys, the end I want to talk about real quick. Something was like I was kind of expecting and it never happened. And like I just said about like I thought they were both going to get possessed because all the blood just spraying on them.
Yeah.
And the rules of how the possession works being very unclear. And the last record that Beth listens to states that basically like there's nothing you can do.
Yes.
Like once it's out, it's out.
It's out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't really make much sense. I mean, unless like maybe the evil can dissipates at dawn.
Yeah.
In some way. Mm-hmm. Which would in a little bit of a way explain the ending of the movie. So I was expecting, but the priest on the record does say something about like the loss of innocence, or it wants to see innocence be lost or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I totally thought that was leading up to some kind of morality thing about little kids and innocence, and Cassie having to do something to lose her innocence, which she kind of does a couple times in this movie. She impales Bridge through the head.
Yes.
She throws scissors, which again was set up from earlier in the movie. Like she throws scissors to Beth to help her fight off Ellie. Because they were her mother's scissors. She's like, "Did you steal our scissors?" Oh yeah, straight up the nose, man. But maybe using Stephanie or something, or even just maybe the trauma of going through this would like dissipate it or something. I don't know. But then I realized like that's not an Evil Dead movie. Like you're not going to do some moral thing.
Yeah.
Like But that would have been kind of cool. Just like the idea of like this evil can be defeated by the loss of innocence. Because then realistically, in no Evil Dead movie is the evil ever really
defeated. Yeah.
They just kind of keep going and
yeah.
They were kind of defeated in Evil Dead 2, but all it did was transfer them back in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it realistically, like.
It's kind of weird that this is a franchise that like they never defeat the evil.
Yeah, well, I mean, but diving a little bit deeper into that, like in the history of time for mankind,
have you ever been
has there ever been able to defeat evil?
That's a good.
You know
point.
what I mean?
That is a very good point.
Just something to throw up in the old noggin there. Think about that when you're done watching this video. So with that being said, let's get into the monkeys.
Yeah, let's get into monkeys.
All right, so you know what? Evil Dead Rise. And this is a rarity for me to do this. This is a 12 out of 12. Ooh. This shit fucking landed for me. Like, honestly, I went in thinking I was going to enjoy this. Not near to the extent that I did. And part of that, a big part of it, what we alluded to, I think the acting in this was just fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's great to see people, get their due. Especially on something like this. The Evil Dead franchise is a pretty big franchise now. I think it's garnered a lot more attention than it initially had. It was more of a cult classic, and in some forms still might be.
Yeah.
But I think that it's definitely been... It's
part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, it's gotten a little bit more exposure, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
And this movie, in particular, shows why it should.
Yeah.
They had a great cast. That all performed their roles very well. Very enjoyable to watch. I loved that it was not what I thought it was going to be with the gore being super over the top. There were definitely scenes that I winced where I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And like, setting up that expectation of like, oh shit, I'm going to be in for, a long hour and 30 minutes. There's going to be some things that are going to be difficult to watch. But for the most part, it wasn't that way for me, so I enjoyed that. Cinematography, absolutely loved it. And, I think, again, requel, reboot, whatever we want to call this.
Whatever we want to call it.
This paid homage to the classics and was able to keep its own identity.
Yeah.
And did it very well. So
definitely,
12 out of 12 for Evil Dead Rise.
I agree. Have we ever done a half on this channel here? So I'm gonna give it an 11.5.
Okay.
Out of 12. It's almost perfect. I will totally agree with you. I went in expecting to love it. And I knew I was going to love it. I was just slightly worried that it was going to be a little bit too Conjuring-esque, maybe Insidious-esque. Not Insidious, I'm sorry, Sinister-esque. Where it was just going to be jump scary and too much ghosty stuff and like, you know, whatever. Or just kind of not Evil Dead. Because I think you're totally right. Evil Dead is more part of the zeitgeist. Even though it is kind of more of a cult thing and always kind of has been a cult movie, a cult franchise. But it is part of the zeitgeist now, and that cannot be denied. But I was a little bit worried that it was going to not have that flair and that flavor. It did. The only down, all the actors are great. There were some not great line readings, but it's whatever it is. That was probably just the best line they had in the edit.
Yeah,
and that's okay. It didn't detract. It wasn't like so bad. The bumpers that's the down for me. That's like they were unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. And I kind of get it, doing the opening being an homage to the first one, or the first one, second one, being in a cabin and doing something creepy there. But then to say it's one day earlier and that's when the entire plot of the movie happens, and then end with this very vapid woman who somehow lives in this apartment and gets into her car, and this is the person who is in the beginning. Like, and there's no way that girl, there is no way in hell that girl goes to check on anything unless she's going to check if the waiter has washed his hands at a restaurant, or if that's the vibe that this girl is. Like, she's a Karen and a half. She's Karen point two. Like that, there's no way in hell that girl goes to check on anything that she saw in her rearview mirror. So that being said, the bumpers are completely useless. The main plot, the main meat of this story is perfect. It's perfection. Everything in it is great. But it's just that's my one down, and I can't even knock it for a full point because it's like, you gave us at least one thing that like works because it's an homage to the originals.
Yeah.
The cabin in the woods with some creepy stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it's just how you get there. It's like it's like they forgot like how to get there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No.
And then threw in this like random scene of a girl going to her car and then checking on something and then getting possessed by the entity.
Yeah.
It like made zero sense and was kind of stupid and silly. But that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Not necessarily in that order, but if you'd like to do any of those in that order, that would be great. Checking out from the Ritual Chamber, we are the Two Guys From Knowhere. Boo-boo. You're good, Ash. You're good at little two shoes. Okay.
Outtakes.
Am I doing anything there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was wearing them both.
I know, but we decided Bad Ash was the only one that we were going with.
Okay.
I just did it. Was that?
That was good enough. Yeah.
It was.
It was. Of course, I was recording.
Should I try one more time?
Sure. Why not?
All right. You could count us in.
Yeah. I will.
Well, I mean, you could just.
I'm in the middle of my point. Yeah. Not. Just,
Yeah.
But but also don't do that. Or you could stop doing that.
I don't even think the camera will pick that up.
It might. You don't know. Fuck.
It might pick that up.
Yeah.
It might pick this up.
It's picking it up.
All right.
Skin it back, Dave. Old school jokes.
I forgot about that shit.
I've never forgotten about that.
Oh my god.
I try to explain to anybody why I think that's funny, and then it's like, really? Like, all right, sorry, I guess you have to be there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his floor isn't level, so the levels on that don't count.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the.
Well, I mean, you didn't. I was talking, so I figured,
Okay, all right.
I figured in your annoyance you'd count again.
All right. 3.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Why is that? That one doesn't even make sense. That's.
It doesn't, but it's from Anchorman. It's just funny.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's
funny.
I know, I get it. All right.
Say complicated. It's just that's all it is. That's all it is. Just saying a complicated sentence and like being able to get your mouth muscles to do that.
See, I talk all day, so I don't ever have that.
See, I
issue.
don't.
I talk
I spend
all
90% of my time not talking. If anybody in my real life wonders why I'm so quiet, it's because 90% of my I don't talk.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a quiet person.
I'm fucking all day talking because of work. All right. Hey everybody, welcome back. Batch.
Oh, batch. Welcome, bitch.
Welcome,
you,
bitch.
You were saying BACH.
Yeah. All right.
That is pronounced
BAC.
Bach.
Okay. Okay.